The new Syrian government takes the constitutional oath before President Assad. And authorities continue to chase armed terrorist groups who spread panic in Duma and Damascus suburbs and Idlib. Russia and Iran denounced Turkey's violation of Syrian airspace, considering it a provocative act. Good afternoon, this is News in English. Ministers of the new cabinet took the constitutional oath in front of the President Bashar al-Assad. The new cabinet is the first in light of the new constitution in Syria. It comprises 20 new ministers and 6 new ministries. As well, some ministerial portfolios are occupied by ministers from national opposition and independent political figures, particularly those of the Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs, the Minister of Internal Trade and Consumers Protection, in addition to the Minister of State for National Reconciliation Affairs. Authorities clashed this morning with armed terrorist groups who had gathered in al-Hami in Damascus suburbs and used it as a base from which they launched their aggressions against citizens and law enforcement groups. They had blocked Beirut Ancient Road and set up barricades on Wadi Balada suburb road to be used as a path for armed men and to smuggle weapons and men from Zabadani and Madaya to al-Hami region and its outskirts. Authorities intercepted this morning an armed terrorist group who tried to cut off the road at Khan al-Subul site in Idlib countryside. The group had assaulted citizens and opened fire at passing cars before that. A source in the governorate said the authorities clashed with the terrorist group and was able to kill and injure some of its members who were riding pickup trucks mounted with machine guns, which were destroyed during the operation. And moving to Duma, where authorities continue to chase armed terrorist groups which spread panic among citizens, attacking them and perpetrating acts of sabotage in Duma and its outskirts in Damascus countryside. A source in the governorate said that the clashes with the terrorists left several of them dead and wounded and their weapons confiscated. The authorities also clashed with an armed terrorist group which was using a vehicle mounted with a Dushka machine gun, destroying it completely and killing all the terrorists inside it. Iranian Foreign Minister Ali Akbar Salehi has reiterated his country's stand in rejection of any foreign intervention in Syria. Salehi said Iran views the current developments in Syria from the viewpoints of the country's important position in supporting the resistance. He said Iran affirms the need for a Syrian solution to the current crisis in the country without any foreign intervention and through the implementation of reforms and realization of the legitimate and peaceful demands of the Syrian people, which would safeguard Syria's position in the resistance front. In a related context, Iranian Foreign Minister's spokesperson Ramin Mehman first has announced that his country is doing its best to ensure a solution to the crisis and prevent sedition and war in Syria. In a press conference he held in Tehran today, Mehman said some countries are intervening regularly and negatively in Syria, arming the terrorist groups and that commit horrible crimes and massacres and coordinating their steps with Syria's enemy from Western countries. On downing the Turkish military plane by the Syrian air defenses, Mehman said the violation of airspace of any sovereign state contravenes international charters and the matter must be pursued in international circles. He pointed out that influential states in the region must contribute to the prevention of any attempt to shake up security and stability in the area. Deputy Speaker of the Russian Duma Council, Chairman of the Russian Democratic Liberal Party, Mr. Vladimir Zhirinovsky, has condemned the Turkish warplane's violation of Syrian airspace, considering it as a pre-planned provocative act. In an interview with SANA's correspondent in Moscow today, Zhirinovsky said certain forces in Europe and the United States and NATO in general have been seeking in recent months to escalate the situation in Syria through a military intervention in the country. Genoveski said Turkey has found itself involved in such international provocations as it deliberately sent its warplanes to violate Syrian airspace. He added that the Syrian air defenses acted correctly in downing the plane which penetrated Syria's airspace, and he praised the Syrian air defenses as being highly efficient and can down any air targets. He called on the Turks to stop such provocations. A Palestinian women delegation comprising all Palestinian factions today paid a visit to the Syrian Women's Federation in Damascus. The delegation stressed the Palestinian women's solidarity with the Syrian women in this crisis facing the country and their support for their stance in resistance. The delegation affirmed that the assault targeting Syria is due to the latter's stand on the side of the resistance. In its sixth session today, headed by the Assembly Speaker Mr. Muhammad Jihad al-Laham, the People's Assembly approved the report of the Assembly Bureau on the formation of its permanent committees. The elections of heads of committees and their deputies will be held during tomorrow's session. The Assembly referred a legislative decree issued by the President of the Republic to the National Security and Financial Laws Committees for consideration and for preparing the necessary report about it. The legislative decree includes discharging from service and stopping the state salaries and compensation of all citizens whose indictment is confirmed that they have contributed in any way to any act of terrorism, whether as doers, instigators, partners, collaborators, or members of any terrorist group. The Assembly also referred a number of draft laws to the Constitutional and Legislative Affairs Committee. And with this, we conclude our political bulletin for today. For more news about Syria and the region, visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy.